Now we will see what do we need next. So next we need a class named SQLiteOpenHelper. Now what is this class and why do we need it? So it is the helper class that is used to manage the database creation and version management, and it provides you two methods, the onCreate method and the onUpgrade method, and it also takes care of opening the database if it exists, creating it if it does not exist, and upgrading the database if required. So basically, what is managing the database creation and what is version management? So now, managing database creation means that if you have a database, right? If we talk about a relational database, what we have to do, we have to create a database ourselves, right? And after that, we have to create the tables and all, right? And we have to do a lot of stuff. Most of that stuff is removed in SQLiteOpenHelper, and the OpenHelper class will do it automatically, right? Like creating the database, it will do automatically. Creating a version for the database, it will create that automatically. You only have to create the tables. You don't have to worry about what will be the database and how it will be created and how to open the connection and all, right? You don't have to worry about that. Now what is version management? Now it is a little tricky part. Basically, when you deploy your application on Google Play, you deploy it with a version number of the database. So let's say the first application that you deploy on Google Play has a database version 1. Now the next that you will deploy on Google Play, the next version of your app, it should have a different, if it has a different database, then it should have a different number, a different version number, right? Why? Because you have made some changes in the database, right? Now in that scenario, because the user will have the first version of your application and now it is being updated to the second version, and in these two versions you may find that you have made some changes in the schema of the database. Now you have to make sure that your application changes the schema in the code itself, right? Let's say you have 5 tables in the version 1. Now you have 10 tables in the version 2. So what you will do? You will delete all 5 tables and you will create new 10 tables? No, you cannot do that, because those 5 tables are actually holding the data of the user. You have to migrate that data from those 5 tables into the new 10 tables, right? Or if you are changing the schema of a database, then you have to migrate the data, and that is done in the onUpgrade method. So when you change the version, the application knows that the version is being updated, and in the onUpgrade method you write the code that we have new tables, or we have new fields in the tables, in the different tables, and you have to then migrate the data from the previous table to the new table. Alright, so how to create this SQLiteOpenHelper class and what is it? So let's do that. Let's create a new class. Okay, we have application text. Now I don't need that one, so what I will do, I will delete this folder. So what we will do, we will create a new class in Android, and we will name it MyDBHelper. So MyDBHelper, and we will extend this class to SQLiteOpenHelper, and this will ask us to implement the unimplemented methods and a constructor. Alright, that's it. So we have a constructor here and the onCreate and the onUpgrade methods. Now we can name our database. So for that we will create private static primary string db mydb.db. This is our database name, and we will create one more field here, and that would be version, and it will be of type integer, and let's say 1. So this is the version I was talking about. So basically you will start with version 1, and when you will create the second version of your application and you make some changes in the database, you will make this version to 2, and when this value will be 2 and the device that is updating the app will find the version 1, then the onUpgrade method will get called. Alright, so we have the name and version and the string factory here. We will not use these, and we will use the DB name. Here in the factory we will pass null, and the version is the version 2. Alright, so we have created our basic structure of the database. So if I run this application right now by calling the instance of this database helper, mydb helper, it will create a database of name mydb.db in my application. But that application will have a database, but that database will not have any tables in it. So we have to create the tables ourselves. So there are two ways to create a table. Basically, it's a way to create table. Either you can create a class of that type, and in that class you can create direct fields. It will help you to manage the database roles easily. So for now we will make it simple, and we will create the normal fields here itself. Okay, let's copy this, and this is my table name. So my table name is employees, and this table name will have some columns. So the first column would be the ID. There is underscore ID, and it will have first name. There is first name, last name, then we will have address, and we will have salary, right? And this is salary, right? So inside the onCreate method we have to create our table. So how do we do that? So we will first create the query for table. So our query would be create table, table name, and after that, okay, so create table name, and then we will need the first column, that is ID, and what will be the type of the ID? The ID would be integer primary key, and we will put one comma here, right? The second column is first name. The type of first name is text, and we will say not null. We will want this to be null, right? And then the last name, and after that the address, and lastly we will need the salary. And the type of the salary will not be text, it will be real because it could be a floating point number, right? And we don't need the comma in the last one, right? And what we need instead of that, we need this to complete the table. Let me just put it here. So create table, employees, ID integer primary key, first name text not null, last name text not null, address text not null, and salary that is real, and it should also be none. And to create this table, we will write db this SQLite database, db dot execute SQL, and that is query table. So if I run this code now, it will create a table of name employees with the following fields. Alright, so now before moving forward, let's see what we have next. Okay, now let's talk about SQLite database class. Now SQLite database class exposes different methods to manage the database, and it provides the basic CRUD operations, the create, read, update, and delete operations. All of these operations are present in the SQLite database class. Now this one note, your database name must be unique within your application, but different applications can have the same database name. Like our database name is employees, right? So we cannot have two databases with the same name in our application, but if we have multiple applications in our Android device, right, they can have different databases, same named databases in the application. We can have employees named databases 5 times in the complete operating system. It does not matter, because when you deploy an application and when you create a database in your application, it creates a folder under your package name, and all of your stuff goes inside that folder. So they are distinct. It's not like that all the databases are kept at one place. They are kept separately in different folders based on the package name. Like we have com.hisham.SQLiteDemo as a package name of our application. So our database will go inside that package name inside a folder. Okay, and now what are these CRUD operations? That are create, read, update, insert, delete. All of these operations are present in the SQLite database class. And this method execute SQL is also present with the SQLite database class, as you can see. And we get one instance of SQLite database here in the onCreate method. But we have to create our own SQLite DB object, SQLite database object. So let's do that. Let's create SQLite database and name it myDB. Okay. Now you remember the old thing that when you want something, you first have to open it and then you have to close it, right? So after the on upgrade, we will have one method. We will create a public method, public void OpenDB, and after that we will write public void close database. Okay, so we will open our database and we will close our database. So how do we open our database? So we will use this myDB object here. So in the open method, we will write myDB equals to get writable database. So it will give you a writable database in this object, and it should be private for sure, right? Now when you are done with your object, with your database operations, you are supposed to close the database. So if myDB is not null, simply close the database. So this will close the database if it is open. Let's see if we have the open method also. Yes. If it is not null and it is open, then we will close the database. Let's make it like this. Okay. Now what you will do here, you will need a couple of more things. Now to insert, we should have a method for inserting the data into this MyDBHelper class. So we will create one more method, public void insert, and in this insert we will pass. Okay, we forgot one thing, that is integer primary key, and it should be auto increment. So the ID should be integer, it should be primary key, and it should be auto incremented, like it should start with 1 automatically and it should go on automatically if you don't provide it, right? So inside the insert here we will need we don't need the ID. We need the different fields, which are string first name, string last name, string address, and we will need a double type, that is our segment. Right? We don't need the ID, or we can take the ID no matter what. It doesn't mean it is problem. ID. So we will check if the ID is -1 or something different, then we will not simply give it to the database. So this is our insert method. Now let's see how this insert method will work. Now to insert a value in a database, we have to first map it into a content value object. So you see that we have a content value which contains name value pairs, and they can be used to insert or update rows in the database. So to insert, you need a content value object. It is supposed that it is better to use a content value object, and here you can see that this is how you can create a content value object. So content value equals to new content value dot put the column name and the value, column name and the value. So we will do the same here. We will create a content value new content values, and in the values we will put the ID. Okay, the first one is our column name. So our column name is ID, right? And the value would be the ID. And we will put one check here if the small ID is not equal to -1. Then only we will put it. Otherwise, it will be auto incremented. Now next is value dot put first name, that is f name, and last name, address, salary. Alright, and lastly what you have to do, you have to use this MyDB object dot insert. So in the insert, as you can see, you have to give 3 things. The first is the name of the table, which is table name, the null column head to check for the null columns, you don't want to check any for null column, and the last one is the values. And that's it. That is simply done. This insert method actually returns you something. Let's see what does it return. It returns you a long.